Hey there, diecast fans. How's it going? So, this will be part four, if you can believe it, of Matchbox cars from the 1970s. I've got quite a bit of these. I have a lot more than I even realized. And a couple of these are actually some recent additions, too. So, this video is going to be pretty involved because, in addition to having some visual aids I've got up here, because I've got some unfamiliar cars to show you that you might not be aware of. We're also going to do something rare that we don't see too often on my little channel here, and that is we're going to do a couple of unboxings. As you can see, I got two cars stashed in a box here, and we're going to unbox them in this video. So we say we just get right into it because we got a lot of ground to cover. All right, so let's start with the one that's on the turntable. So remember in a prior video about Tomicas, I was talking about how I had a Celica Super version. The Tomica one I showed you is actually a base Celica, even though it has the Super name on it. That's actually improper. It's incorrect. This here is a true Celica Supra, and I'll show you the many details as the reason why. So first of all, extra light, let's put that on. It's always a must. All right, so remember I told you in 1978 when they redesigned the Celica and introduced the Celica Super, which was the six-cylinder model, you could denote the Super because it had rectangular headlamps, as this one does. There was also a special insignia on the side that denoted it as a Supra. This model's got opening doors, and this particular these wheels here, these are very unusual. There were a couple of Matchboxes I remember having these wheels. The Datsun 280Z was one of them. You'll also notice, see how this one says made in Hong Kong, but it still says Lesney products? Usually Matchboxes were made, and when they were Lesney products, they were made in England. So this is unusual for this one to be made in Hong Kong. So as you can see, it's a very well done model. Black painted chassis. You got kind of like an ivory white interior there. It's definitely a Euro model because it's got the steering wheel on the right hand side. Got your little sliding metal panel sunroof. And that's about the tail lamp design they would have had. It's actually pretty accurately represented. We always thought that this was kind of an odd wheel design. It almost looks too small for the car, actually. Usually Matchbox had nice beefy wheels on their cars. Got the classic Matchbox, nice doors that close up real good. So yeah, that's a really nice model. It's hard to denote the slightly longer wheelbase of the Celica Super in the model like this, but they do the best they can. But it's got all the other details that are correct. So that's actually pretty cool. All right, let's take a look at a pair of Mercedes next. I've already shown you a majorette version of one of these. This is a 450 SEL W116 chassis. And this is Matchbox's rendition, and I think personally even better than the majorette, just because I think the details are better. They definitely have better quality paint, that's for sure. Unfortunately, that was kind of one of majorette's Achilles' heels. They made very high quality models, but their paint wasn't quite as good as Matchbox's. I think this is depicting either a 1978 or 1979 model. I think the casting was issued in '79. Really nice blue color. I mean, I'm just a sucker for blue cars. Got kind of like a very light brown interior. Almost like a mocha color. Light mocha. And so you see this will be a Euro model because it's got the composite headlamps. And this one's got a little sporting a trailer hitch on there. I love how they actually took the time to tool up the 450 SEL badge on the trunk lid. That's very cool. I like how they did that. You also notice, well, once again, Matchbox and their nice little details. You got the armrest and door pull is featured there on the door as well. And yeah, they just always do a good job. This is one of the years that Matchbox didn't have a suspension on some of their cars. Show you the nice clean chassis this one's got. Yeah, 1979. One of my personal favorites. This is one that I did not have as a kid. The one I'm going to show you next I did have as a kid. So this is a Mercedes Roadster, specifically about a 1973 350 SL. For years I mistakenly thought this was a six-cylinder powered car. The 350 SL was actually a V8. That's a 3.5 liter V8, very small V8. And they enlarged it to 4.5 liters later on in the decade. But this is another nice model they did, and they also did a lot of versions of this car. I mean, this thing is they do a cherry red, they do a metallic, kind of darker red, They do a blue, and the blue one, oddly enough, doesn't have the plastic top. The blue one is shown as a convertible only. Now, I tried removing this top because the one I had as a kid, you could remove the top. This one I can't remove the top on. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. But then again, you know, this thing is 50 years old. It's probably a little bit stiff and brittle, and I don't want to risk breaking anything. So I decided to leave it alone. This is an earlier version of this model because this was the initial color it was offered in, the yellow. And you can tell by the wheel design, it's definitely an earlier version. The one I had the later wheels like this 450 did as a kid. But I like this version just a little bit more. I got this off eBay from a good seller on there. There you go. You got the 1973 is the issue date on this one. Yeah, these Mercedes Roadsters, what a popular little car with the high rolling movers and shakers back in the day. All right, now let's take a look at this one. Now you're taking a look at that and you're thinking to yourself, oh, cool, an El Camino. Well, you're close. In fact, if you look at it, it kind of does look a little bit like a 71 to 72 El Camino, but this is actually a Holden. A Holden built in Australia. And when they made this car, it was called a Ute. And that was their term for it. So if you had a pair of these and Joe Pesci was in the room and he says the two Utes, he actually would have been correct at that point. Yeah, I remember that was a great movie, My Cousin Vinny. That was a hilarious one. But this came in a couple different variations too. I remember my brother, he had the cream colored one with the red interior and the red motorcycles. This is the less seldom seen red with the yellow motorcycles. And by the way, just to show you, the motorcycles are indeed removable, which is kind of neat. And unfortunately, you could imagine when kids would get a hold of these, the motorcycles would eventually get lost. This one I got off of an adult collector who had kept it in this beautiful condition, as you can see. So the motorcycles are present and accounted for. Still has the little sticker on there. I think the cream colored one had a sticker that went down the side that said Super Bike. I remember. This is a casting from 1977. And yeah, if you look at it, yeah, the Australian GM division of Holden, yeah, their little Holden Ute really did look very similar to a 71 or 72 El Camino, especially in the front end. This is where it really gets different, is in the back here, because this is a completely different shape to the roof line. And, you know, if you watch the original Mad Max, I believe that car that the wife and the baby try to flee in from the biker gang, I think that's actually a Holden Ute also. It's just a different kind, or maybe it's a Holden wagon. Yeah, the bikes are kind of hard to get back in there. There we go. So that's an interesting little model from down under. Okay, what do you say we do one of our unboxings next? All right. So, you may recall I did a Rolls-Royce video a little while ago. And this one that's in this box I did not have at that time, so we're going to feature it in this video with the 1970s Matchbox. So you look at the box there, you see a silver one depicted, right? Number 39 was the number for it. Wait till you see this when I open this up. Wait till you see. There's a rare unboxing on our channel. Here we go. Look at that beauty, huh? You know, it's the funniest thing. I used to think the red one was the rare one. It turns out the red one is actually very common, and the silver one is even more common. This color here, whatever you want to call it, I mean, light brown, champagne gold, light driftwood, whatever you want to call this color, this is actually a very hard to find color, especially in as good a condition as this one's in. This is in just phenomenal shape. You can even tell by the box. The box is actually just in fantastic shape. There's hardly any wear on it. I got this off an eBay seller. He sold to me for a really good price. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He, very generous. But yeah, this thing is in phenomenal condition. So you got, of course, the opening doors on here. Show you those. I mean, the chrome is just perfect. The paint has just a remarkable shine on it. Wonderful metallic flake on there. You got a nice little white interior. Rolls-Royce would have called that magnolia. That was their term for white. They had to always be special and different, don't you know? Same details as the red and silver. Got the suspension. Not a lot of travel, but it's there nonetheless. Got a nice clean chassis on there. One in 1979. I think this version, even though it's the issue date, that was for the original 1979. I remember getting this version for Christmas 1982. My Nana bought it for me. And she also bought me a version of the Maserati Bora, where it was painted black with some orange and red flames on it, and it said Sunburner. And that is actually how the model was named. It actually said Sunburner on the chassis, which I thought was stupid. It's like, why not just call it what it really is, a Maserati Bora? But yeah, this Rolls Royce, I've been trying to search and find one of these in good condition and for not a fortune amount of money for a very long time, probably over a year. And so it was really nice to finally get this one. This is really sweet. And so you guys got to see it unboxed right here on the old Mini Metal channel. I love it. All right, let's move this to the side here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you some of these are actually all the next four I'm going to show you are recent additions. So you notice I got some visual aids up here. You know what that means? It means you're going to get a history lesson, guys and girls. So let's get into it. All right, start with the pink one. Okay, so Matchbox, they and so did other manufacturers, they would sometimes do castings of cars that were not production cars. They were like either severely limited production cars or they were concept cars. This is one such car. It's called an Alfa Carabo, produced in 1968, and it was shown at the Paris Auto Show in 1968. And believe it or not, this was never intended for production. This was just a functional prototype that they built. This green car right here, I'm going to show you. If you'll pardon Mr. Lamborghini here for a second. Okay, so this is what the actual car looked like. And one of the reasons I did this is because I wanted you guys to see what the actual car looked like. And I was curious myself. I had to check that out. So, you know, you can see this is what it looked like in the real version. It's got scissor doors, hidden headlamps, you know, very futuristic wedge shape. Italian design, of course. I think it was done by that outfit called Baritone. But like I said, it was never intended to be a production car. It was just meant to be a show car only. So Matchbox did two versions of this little guy. They did this version here in the pink with the bright yellow chassis, which is really cool. And you'll notice it's got an issue date of 1970. So that's about 2 years after the concept. And they also did this in a streakers version too, like in a red color with all kinds of wild graphics on it. But yeah, the engine was under this cover right here. And they had these scissor doors that would flip up like this. You know, really this wild looking shape car. It's, you know, it's kind of a shame they never produced this, because if you look at it, it's actually a pretty cool car. It's just so unique and so different. And it's got the, you know, the real early style super fast wheels. So this is it's a nice model. And this was another hard to find one in good condition. This was not in a box or a blister pack at all. This was just a very well preserved loose car. So that's a neat one right there. All right, now we're going to take a look at another kind of oddball one that Matchbox did back in the go-go 70s. This is also a car that I had as a kid. So this is called a Siva Spider. It was made by Siva Engineering based out of the UK. And they only built 12 of these little buggers, okay? And they were powered by, get this, of all things, a Volkswagen Beetle style engine. And they had like a gull wing style door. I'm going to show you the actual car. They, like I said, only made 12 of these things. You'll notice that it's got this kind of chrome stainless steel looking band right here. Matchbox actually did a version of this car where that band you see on this one that's black, it actually is chrome. So that's actually more reminiscent of the real car. But you know, it's kind of funny. I never knew that this was just a VW powered car, because you look at this thing, it looks kind of sleek and sporty, like it would be kind of a fast car, but it turns out it really isn't. This is not a blister pack car, well preserved. Except for one paint nick, well actually two paint nicks, one here and one here. Those are the only two paint nicks on it. There's another version of this car that has the skinny wheels. They're very similar to the Alpha I just showed you. That's the version I actually had as a kid. The problem with that one is it's very rare and very expensive. So this is the next best one that I could find in really beautiful condition with still the kind of another early style wheel, just the wider ones. You see it right there, Siva Spider. These were made in 1971. There's an issue date of 1972 on there. Like I said, they only made 12 of these buggers. You know, one of the reasons I printed these out is because I was curious to see if these were even a real car, or if they were just something else that was like a fantasy car that they conjured up or something like that. Okay, let me switch visual aids here real quick because I want to show you something else first before we get to the Lamborghini. All right, so we're going to do another unboxing real quick here. I want to move this to the front. I didn't have those quite right in the order I wanted. Okay, so here's our next unboxing. You'll notice this box is a little more munchy. So this is another car I had as a kid back in the good old 1970s. The Saab Sonnet 3, which was, I believe, issued from 1973. We're going to unbox this little guy right here. And this is actually a pretty neat little car. Let me show you this guy. So here it is. Not quite perfect. It's got a couple paint blemishes on it, but you know what? For a car that's over 50 years old and came in that box that's a little bit worn, it's actually in really good shape. So this is what a real Saab Sonnet looks like. I've literally only seen one of these things in the metal in person. So they're kind of a neat looking little car. Saab actually designed this for the U.S. market expressly, believe it or not. And it just was never a big seller. They only produced a Sonnet 3 between, I think it was 1970 and 74. And it just wasn't a big seller. It had an oddball engine called a V4 that was common in their, 95, 94, 95, or 93, 94, 95 series. Sorry about that. And yeah, the V4 was actually produced by Ford of Europe, of all things. It was really interesting how many different people had their hands in this car. But the Matchbox version is just really pretty with the nice blue, the little yellow interior with the little yellow scoop there in the hood. I don't know if it's more for looks than anything. I read that these pop-up headlights were actually manually operated, not electric. They got this little hatch back here. Now on the actual car, this would have been made of glass. On this one, they just did it in plastic. But it reveals a little limited small trunk space. And, like I said, I always thought they were kind of an interesting looking little car. Not particularly fast or speedy. I mean, gosh, I think that V4 only made like 65 horsepower. But it didn't have a lot of weight to haul around, and it was a 4-speed manual transmission. So, you could have probably flung it around like a little go-kart. But yeah, it's an interesting little car. I remember having this as a kid. This is exactly the version I had with these wheels. This got a little minor paint bubble right here. No big deal. But for the most part, there's a little nick on the roof here. For the most part, it's a really nice car. Everything. All right. So for the last one, we're going to look at the Lamborghini Countach. Now, here's the thing. You Gen Xers, like myself, when you think of a Lamborghini Countach, this is probably the one that comes to your mind. This one here with all the wings and the spoilers and the big fender flares. Well, the Lamborghini actually had a history well before that period of time. 1973 is when the Lamborghini Countach was introduced, and this is what an original one would have looked like back then. I even found the same color as the car I have featuring right now. But you notice that, yeah, they don't have the fender flares, they don't have the big wing on the back, but the overall shape and all the details are still there. And so Matchbox did a couple of versions of this one, Lamborghini Countach here. This is the one that I remember getting as a kid, and I'll tell you a little story about this car. So I had, unfortunately, a lazy eye, and I used to have to go to what was called the Wills Eye Hospital outside of Philadelphia with my father like 3 times a year to get my eyes looked at, and they were doing different experiments to help me with my lazy eye. Well, after one particularly invasive procedure, my father he knew I had this procedure coming up, and what he did was he had this car bought ahead of time. I'm going to show you the little hatch here. This little hatch opens up. Might be easier if I open it this way. I have no fingernails right now. There we go. So when I came home from the Wills Eye Hospital after this particularly invasive, lengthy procedure, this car was waiting for me on the top of our console TV. Remember those? It was not just a TV. It was also a piece of furniture. And I was like really excited because I thought, oh, that's cool. And I like this little car a lot. So I had this waiting for me on the TV when I got home back in the 70s. This is a casting from 1973. That's the issue. It's got the black painted chassis on there. There's another version of this that was made in the Streakers series, and it has like a gray interior, blue windows, and a gray engine. This version here I think is just really, really cool because you got the chrome engine, chromed out tail lights, and of course the chrome interior that they set off with those red colored windows. Just to show you that, Matchbox, even they're not perfect. You'll notice that their little factory didn't put the number 3 sticker on quite centered. But overall, this is a really well-preserved model. This did not come in a box or a blister. This was just a very well-preserved loose car. Just really, really nice shape. So yeah, that was also one of my favorites as a child growing up. Just love that. So there we have it. That is part 4. So stay tuned for part 5 because there's more coming. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed the little history lessons. You guys are great. I really enjoy your comments. Like I said, right now the channel's nice and small. I can address you guys individually, and I like that. You know, I do want the channel to grow, but for right now, I enjoy it being small because, like I said, I can have that personal one-on-one interaction with you guys, and I appreciate you all. So, you know, enjoy it all, and we'll see you in the next video. Y'all take care.